You talk a lot about proactive guidance. What does proactive parenting actually look like in practice?
In practice, it's the 2 of the 3 pillars I just talked about. It means really observing your kids. I'm not talking about sneaking into diaries and all of that, but when they're having conversations, pay attention. Listen to them, talk with them, have conversations with them, find out who each kid is, just the way we had to in schools. I was a special educator, and eh, kids with disabilities have what are called IEPs, individual education plans. You had to delve into each child. I'm suggesting to parents, you have to delve into each child. You have to understand each child. And I know parents know that a little bit because they'll say, oh, he's just like his dad, or she's just like her mom, or she's just like her dad. My sister is very much my mother. I am very much my father. We talk about that all the time. But that doesn't get down to the nitty gritty of what am I afraid of? What am I worried about going forward? I had a friend last night at dinner say that he was always in the lower level classes because nobody ever thought he was smart enough to do anything. In my first book, one of the things we warn teachers about is to never, ever, ever tell a parent your kid is not college material. Ever. Of the 3 of us that wrote the book, I was the primary author, and I had two people who did a lot of the gut work for me in terms of pulling papers together. Um, those 2 were told they couldn't their parents were told they shouldn't go to college. Both of them have master's degrees. The guy I talked to last night had a teacher in high school say, "You are absolutely in the wrong track. You should be in the honors track." He ended up in the honors track. He was a very successful psychologist, became a director of special ed. So, yeah, I think we have to do individual, and observing consistently is important. The listening actively is important. You got to listen to your kids. My dad was the kind of guy, if I walked into he ran a muffler shop and he was under a car. And I was at college 2 hours away. And something happened and it was critical and I needed to see him and talk with him face to face. So I got in the car and I drove and I walked into his shop and he was under a car putting a muffler on. And he looked over and he saw me and he held up his finger and said, "1 minute," turned to his another guy and said, "Take over, finish this." Came over to me, said, "Give me a minute to wash my hands." Washed his hands, got his car keys. He said, "Let's go." We got in the car, drove to a lot, and he said, "What's going on?" He never really said not now. He would say, "Give me 5 minutes, give me 10 minutes, or okay," and put something down. He would love today's world where you could pause the TV. You know, in those days,
Yeah.
he would lose the show. He would love that. So the second thing is to listen actively. The third thing is probably the hardest thing for parents to do. It's hard for all of us as humans to do, and that is to model carefully your behavior in front of your kids, because your kids are going to pick up what you do and what they see you do more than what you tell them to do. So if you're kind and considerate and helpful to people, even to strangers, they will be. If you're judgmental and, condescending, they will be too. So, what I like to say is, you want to leave your kids a legacy of character. Now, that serves them well throughout their lives. And being a kinder, more empathetic human will lead to a more happy life. And I think we're seeing that play out now. If you look at the people that are not kind, that are into hurting people, that are okay with the unfettered cruelty going on around the world and in this country, they're not happy. They're not happy people. They're afraid because they've been trained to be afraid. They've been misled. And it's just inherently why what and that is my response to people who I see be that way. What happened to you in your life that made you so bitter, so angry, or so afraid?